Hey, welcome to Overtime, where we take Sunday's message further. My name is Jeremy, and I'm your host. And this is a podcast where we just want to ask the questions that we think that you would ask as it relates to Sunday's message. And as we do so, we hope that it helps you grow in your life and your faith. With that being said, be sure to hit that subscribe button so you can stay up to date on all of the podcasts that are coming out. Not only that, hit the like button, because when you do so, it helps us help other people. And if you ever have a question about Sunday's content or about Overtime, you can submit those to overtime@npaustin.com, and we will be sure to get to those in future podcasts. So with that being said, here's a quick recap of Sunday, and then we're going to jump into our conversation today.
I mean, what is arguably the number one thing that keeps us from taking that step and being generous is fear. Our fears are driven by the what if, and we fuel our fears to what ifing our way out of being generous. Jesus lays the foundation and says, guys, here's what's going on with all the generosity phobia, and he gives us insight to how irrational perhaps this is. He says, no one can serve two masters. You cannot serve both God and money. Money, honestly, it's the best substitute for God. Therefore, I tell you, do not worry about your life. Look at the birds of the air. They do not sow or reap or store away in barns, and yet your heavenly Father feeds them. Are you not much more valuable than they? Our irrational fear is driven by a lack of confidence in God. So let me ask you, who are you most devoted to?
We did a video, this is context for our viewers. We did a video about a month ago or so, and we sat down and had a conversation about y'all's story because you were launching this Money Matters group, and y'all are the leaders of Money Matters. And we had this whole conversation, and this is what happens when we do story videos, is we have a 30-minute to 45 to even an hour-long conversation, and then we edit it in the video down to like 3 minutes. And so, as y'all know, we cut out a whole lot of stuff. So when we started this new series, Paradox of Generosity, we thought, man, who better to get on the podcast and talk about the story than y'all? So thank you for being here. To get us going, though, I have a question, because I remember something you mentioned in the story, and that was that y'all are from Illinois, right?
Yes.
And confirming it's not like Indiana or something like that. I know it started with an I, Illinois. And y'all talked about the snow up there, the winters up there.
Yeah.
I wanted to know, like, what was your experience like in the snowstorm? Because it's starting to get cold here. What was your experience this past February? Were y'all like, oh, this is nothing? Or were y'all, how did that go?
It's getting cold here?
It's slightly hovering below 70, and as Ashley likes to say, if it's below 70, she's got like Eskimo gear on, like she's ready to go.
Yeah. Well, okay. So the snowstorm for me was, we moved down here largely because I hate the cold, I hate the snow, I hate the winter, I hate the ice. So it was sort of like it was chasing me, you know, like I can't get away. It doesn't matter how far I go.
Yeah.
So that's what it felt like for me.
For me, it just like same thing, but then the cold wasn't there, I don't think. I mean, the snow was there, but the cold wasn't there. I mean, in Illinois, sometimes it gets below zero.
Yeah.
So
you're telling me that 9 degrees wasn't cold, is what you're saying?
It's a different cold than up there.
That's fair.
Was it 9 degrees?
I think it was like 9 degrees here.
Yeah.
I think it was that low.
It's the wind. So in Illinois, when you like walk around a corner, it's like brutal freezing wind, like hits you straight in the face so hard it makes you like
want to move to Texas.
Yes.
Yeah.
And like lose your breath.
Yeah. That's fair.
So at 9 degrees up there would be like negative 20 degrees with the wind chill or something.
Yeah.
You know.
Oh, that's brutal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't remember it being that cold. I did feel that way. So.
Yeah, I guess you get used to it, right?
That's true.
Yeah, it's so funny because we're gearing up for the second winter snowstorm. They're saying there's another one coming, and maybe, I don't know, but
you just ruined my whole day.
I'm so sorry. We'll cut your day being ruined out of the podcast, so it's not even in there. But yeah, they're saying there's another one this winter.
Oh.
Yeah, so sorry about that. Good news is, actually, I don't have a great transition from there. So let's jump into your story. Let's jump into, talking about your story. So I already kind of shared a little bit of y'all that you're from Illinois. Tell our viewers and listeners a little bit more about you.
A little bit about us. We originally both from Central Illinois. Grew up in really small towns, like small. Like I think there's a population of 150 in the town that I grew up in.
Wow.
Yeah, that's small.
That's pretty small.
Mm-hmm, yes. We met, when, 2001? Like right after 9/11.
Yeah, November.
And we've been together ever since. Like it was the night we met and have not been. Like we knew almost immediately.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah.
That's cool.
And so we've been together over 20 years, and we've been married for 18.
I think 18.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
It's always good when you both have to think about
Yeah,
it versus
yeah.
just one, right?
You're like, oh no, I have to. Yeah, that's funny.
Yeah.
I tell you what, like when it gets into double digits, I can understand how it gets difficult because it's things blend together. Like Ashley and I have been married for 5 years, but the other day I literally almost said 6, and I was like, how am I already getting confused on that?
Yeah.
But I guess time just like goes really quick.
It does, kind of.
Yeah.
It has gone fast.
Yeah.
I think that's part for me. I'm always like, has it been that long? It has.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So let me ask this: when y'all met, you were both bringing certain aspects of how you viewed money, how you viewed finances into your marriage. What were those different aspects for y'all growing up as it related to finances? And you talked a little bit on the story video about floating checks was one aspect. And
Yeah.
so what were the different aspects of money for y'all growing up?
I think we're almost similar, but for me growing up, it was all about credit cards, all about debt. If you didn't have the money to get it, just charge it. That's how my mom and dad. That's what they did. I don't know how many credit cards they had, but they just charged it. We never did talk about money in my family. Money, religion, sex, nothing like that.
Yeah.
I guess
It's all kind of surface level.
Yeah. Not a lot of emotion in my family at all.
Sure.
So that's how, Brenda calls it an emotional desert.
Emotional desert.
That makes me sound harsh. That wasn't very nice.
But it was actually true. I mean,
Yeah.
I mean, I did my own laundry when I was young, and I got out of there as soon as I could.
Yeah.
Because it just, didn't feel like I belonged there,
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure, but money for you
Yeah.
was always charge credit cards, just whatever,
Just
no big
charge
deal.
it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Who cares if you have a high car payment?
Yeah.
Just get that car you like.
Part of life. Yeah.
Yeah. So my family, in terms of emotions and temperament, was the exact opposite. Isn't that the way it always goes, right? So my family emotional atmosphere was chaotic and unpredictable, but it was always highly emotionally charged, whatever direction it was headed in.
Yeah.
And in terms of money, my parents didn't talk about it. Like my mom's philosophy was, it's none of your business how much we pay for our car or our house or how much money we make. It's not your business. It's not something you discuss with your kids.
Right.
And so that was, I think I didn't know anything about money. I didn't know how to manage it. Whenever I needed money or wanted money for something, it was always there. And what I didn't know at the time was that my parents were drowning in debt. So, I grew up on a farm. They almost lost the farm a couple of times just because of, poor financial management.
Sure.
And yes, my mom, when I turned 16, my mom took me to get my driver's license. And then she took me immediately to the nearest fast food restaurant and taught me how to apply for work, which was take a pen, look prepared. You're going to do what they tell you to do, and you're going to make what they tell you you're going to make because you don't know anything. You have no experience.
Yeah.
And then that's when I got my first checking account, and that's when I started to learn a little bit about how to manage money. But my parents were really super hands-off. And about the only thing I remember is my mom telling me there was something we were shopping or something I wanted to get, and I'm like, but I don't get paid till Friday. And she's like, it's okay, write the check today. I won't make it to the bank until after your paycheck.
So she knew how to work the system.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
I was like, what? What? This is a whole new world.
This is what personal finances looks like. This
Yeah,
is
exactly.
smart management.
Exactly.
Plus,
Yes.
they didn't have the machine that runs the check right through it.
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah,
like
or
they
you
do-
couldn't take
like
a
they do
picture of it with
today.
your phone. Yeah.
Yeah. So, and that was, that stayed with me for a long time. Like, you know, spending before you've actually earned it.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So,
Then y'all get married, y'all get together, and you bring both of these kind of financial backgrounds into your relationship. What happens with finances?
Well, while we're still working,
Yeah.
we kept our finances separate. So
Yeah.
I had my own checking account and a couple credit cards, and she had her own checking account. It wasn't until you stopped working, when Skylar was born, that we ended up combining our finances together into one checking account.
yeah, that was a tough transition for me. But yeah, so nothing changed for us. We just kept acting like single people when it came to our money.
Yeah. And I'm curious, why did y'all choose to approach finances and marriage that way?
I'm not sure for Scott, but I can say for me, we'd both been married before. So this wasn't our first marriage. My first husband was extremely financially irresponsible. Like I was financially responsible at one level and he took it to a whole different level.
Yeah.
So for me, part of it was just about like living out of a place of, you know, that wound, right?
Yeah, there
and
was some
not
fear
trusting.
associated.
Yes. And you know, also just quite frankly, just some selfishness, like my money was my money,
Yeah.
to be honest.
Yeah.
Right.
Even I'm sure that would stem from some of that wounding too. Like, hey, that my money now went to where I didn't want it to go.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
that was me. And I think,
That was the same way with, you know, my previous marriage. We just kept our own separate accounts.
Yeah.
And it was just something, you know, we just did that. So it was just a normal, you know.
Yeah. It's just a normal way to approach things.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yep. So y'all kind of tend to bring some of those habits into your own relationship. And then what happens? I mean, y'all are married a couple years, you know, you have Skylar, your daughter. And so what happens kind of from there?
Well, it was one winter. We were out in the country, and we have a propane tank, and we have to fill it every so often. Well, we still owed, I'm not sure how much we owed on it. Maybe
it was like $1,500
Was it
or
that
something.
much?
Yeah.
and it was going out.
Dang.
It was on fumes. And they wouldn't fill it up until we paid, I think, at least half or a certain percentage down on what we owed in order to fill it back up again. So that was rock bottom for us. I think it was then when you started hearing about Dave Ramsey and stuff. She got into it more than I did. I was just trying to crunch the numbers, trying to, you know, okay, can we use this credit card?
Kind of
max
puzzle
this
piece,
out?
move it around.
Yeah.
Yeah, and about that same time, I had been going to a MOPS group at the local church, and they were advertising Dave Ramsey's Financial Peace University on their, you know, like billboard. And so I would drive by all the time and I would see it. But then I would think, oh, that's so not for us. Like, we're not church people, right? And I still, you know, kind of would, and felt that way very much in MOPS also. Like, this is not,
What's
I don't
MOPS?
fit.
What's MOPS?
Mothers of preschoolers.
Nice, nice. Well, yeah, you mentioned in the video, you said y'all were going to walk into the church
Yeah.
and feel like you're going to spontaneously combust.
Yeah.
Because at that time we were far, far from Christ.
Oh, yeah.
After I left, when I graduated and went to the service, I just pretty much ran as far away as I could from God. So we were just far away from Him.
We were. Do you remember that one time I came home from Mothers of Preschoolers meeting and I said, you know, I've been thinking, maybe, I don't know, what if we went to church? And he looked at me and he goes, it's funny now, but at the time it was a little, but he looked at me and he goes, if you become a Christian, I'm filing for divorce.
Oh, my goodness.
And I was like, okay, well,
Yeah.
moving on.
Yeah.
Which is just funny to think about now because
Yeah, no.
we were so far. We were running hard in the opposite direction for sure.
Sure. Yeah, but you went into the Dave Ramsey thing.
We did, and I think it was just sheer desperation. So we had the heat thing.
Yeah.
Right. So we didn't have any heat. We thought we were going to run out, and we had a 18-month-old. Terrifying, just terrifying. And then shortly after that, we were having a conversation about finances in the kitchen. Remember that? And I said something about retirement.
Oh yeah.
And Scott, he looks at me and he goes,
"Retire? I ain't gonna retire. We're working until we die."
Yeah.
And I was like, "Oh no, that's not my plan." So I think we just ended up there out of sheer desperation. Like, we were desperate enough to go someplace that literally made us both probably nauseous, uncomfortable.
Probably me more than you, though.
Both of us probably. Yeah. I carried a lot of shame. So I didn't feel like that. I didn't feel like God was for me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. So y'all started to, apply some of the Dave Ramsey principles, from that, and one of the things I want to get to, we didn't get to show in the video because we didn't have enough time, but that y'all actually kind of had 2 seasons of this. So you applied some of these principles the first time. Talk about what that was like, what that felt like, kind of the momentum there.
It was very hard, but then what really helped was when we decided to cut up the credit cards and stop using credit.
Yeah.
We just worked the plan. The smallest amount we owed, we paid it off. Great. Then we put all that money next to the next one and then the next one. So it gets momentum going and you just start feeling pretty good. That first round, we did do Gazelle Intense, Dave calls it, which is really hard because you're not setting aside money for yourself to, just for whatever. You're not eating out. So it's really
every extra dollar you have, you're throwing it at debt.
At debt.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
and I guess for context too, the baby steps, correct me if I'm wrong, $1,000 in the bank. That's just like have some amount of money there. And then 2, you pay off all your debt. Not including your mortgage.
Not including your mortgage.
Not including your mortgage.
Yep.
And then from there, you start saving the 15% after. No,
you're fully funded.
3 to 6
3 to 6 months
emergency fund. Yeah. So that's where you take that $1,000 and you turn it into a 3 to 6 month emergency fund. So those are 3 steps. So y'all were in the second step where you were gazelle intensity, going as fast as you can, throwing everything you have at credit.
Yeah.
Yes. And at the same time, feeling like we're not really sure we can do this. We've never lived like this. We've never seen people who lived like this.
Sure.
Right. And then at the same time, just having $1,000 in a savings account was more money than either one of us had ever had in savings in our whole entire life.
Yeah, because before then we were living paycheck to paycheck. I mean, we'd get done and we'd have like $10 left for 2 weeks. Like, woohoo,
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah. Yeah. So I think it was hard to start out, and it's a total different way to think about your money and how you spend your money.
Yeah.
And what you can, quote, afford.
Sure.
Right? So it used to be if we could afford the payment, then we could afford it.
Yeah.
And now we think very, very differently about things, right?
That's not Dave's philosophy, because Dave is like, if you're going to make a payment, you can't afford it.
Right.
Is Dave Ramsey's philosophy, right?
Right. He's like, you save up and pay cash.
Yep.
Right.
Yeah.
So
if you can't pay cash for it, then you don't need it now. You need to save up for it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. Which changes, the whole way you live, right?
Yeah. So y'all implemented those principles, and you started to see a lot of fruit, in your financial life. And then what happened? Because I know move, and then kind of Dave Ramsey part 2, a couple of things.
Yeah. Before the move, when she started work again, then here comes a flush of more money, in. So it's like, woohoo, we're rich.
Right.
Yeah.
Yes.
So we kind of like stopped working the plan.
Yeah.
Then I want to say I don't think we got another credit card though.
No, we didn't get another credit card.
But we did have 2 car payments.
We did have 2 car payments. We bought 3 cars in like 12 months.
Dang.
Yeah, so it was like I went back to work. All this money started coming in. I remember we kind of looked at each other and we're like, okay, well, we could live like we have been living and put all that money towards our debt.
Mm-hmm.
Or we could have a lot of fun.
Yeah.
And we opted for fun.
Yeah. So nice cars, going out, doing things,
Yeah.
fun
Yeah.
stuff.
Eating
just-
out.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes. And at that point, we had used the debt snowball, and we'd gotten up to the point where all of our little debts were paid off.
All the credit cards and that kind of
Yeah.
stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And what we had left was our big stuff, like I think we had a credit card that was like close to 10,000, and we had our student loans, which were
Yeah.
like 20 grand each,
Yeah.
right? So it was the big stuff left, and we were like, this is good enough. We're way better than we were,
Yeah.
right? And we're going to have fun. And we did that.
How much originally, if you don't mind me asking and sharing publicly, how much debt were y'all in from the get-go, like rock bottom?
From the rock bottom with credit card and stuff, and then I would say it was probably about close to 50,000.
Okay.
50, 60. That's not the house. That's just credit card debt.
Oh, that's just the credit
It's
cards.
just credit
Yeah,
card
that's
Just credit card
yeah,
debt.
So yeah.
But then you had the 22,000 student loan, 12,000
Yeah, item. Yeah.
student loan.
Yeah.
So I had that on top of that.
Cars
so,
at that time, too?
Oh,
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
cars.
probably over 100,000, not including the house.
Yeah, yeah.
We're still in the house.
Yeah, gotcha.
Yeah.
So then y'all kind of, you had most of the little ones taken care of. You had that
Yeah.
10 and the 2 student loans, and you start living it up, living the wild life.
Yeah.
Don't have an 18-month-old anymore.
No.
Yep.
No.
And yeah, we were just having fun. And we didn't slide all the way back. Like, we never got
Yeah.
another credit card. We didn't take out, like, we did the car thing. We did take out car loans. But other than that, we were still living on a budget, right? So we were better than we had been.
Sure,
Yeah.
Right.
sure.
Yeah.
And then we fast forward.
We bumped up our spending money to where nothing up to like $200 a month for each of us.
Yeah.
That's stuff like that. It's like,
Yeah.
woohoo!
Yeah, for
Yeah.
sure.
And then we sold our house in Illinois, and we made a little profit. Not like a huge amount, but we made a little bit of profit. And we didn't buy down here right away because we didn't really know where we wanted to live
Sure.
down here, right? So we moved here. We're living in an apartment, and we blew through what we made on the sale of our house in, was it a couple of weeks?
No, it's maybe about like 6 weeks.
All right, 6 weeks.
6 weeks. Not a
It was
couple weeks.
gone.
It was 6
6
weeks.
weeks.
Right.
You guys hold on for 6 weeks.
Right.
Yeah.
It was gone.
Yeah.
Gone. And we were still not believers. Like, all through the Dave Ramsey, the first time we went through it, we were sort of the people in the back of the class. Every time they started talking about the Bible or Jesus, we were kind of like, okay, here they
Yeah.
go again.
You're like,
right?
can y'all leave
Ugh.
that stuff out of it, please?
Right, can you just keep it to the money piece, right?
Yeah.
And so we came here, we moved here, we had that happen, and we looked at each other and we're like, yeah, we got to go back. Financial Peace University. Who's holding one? Found one and went, got back on track, right? Got maybe not quite gazelle intense, but we got back intense with our budget,
Yeah.
tightened things down.
Yeah, did y'all lose the car payments and like all that stuff then?
We had a $45,000 car. We traded it in for a 2004 Chevy Trailblazer for like $6,000.
$6,000.
Nice.
So then we didn't have a car payment.
So you totally demoted yourselves.
and
Yes.
Yeah.
Luckily, the car lasted for a year.
Nice.
Yes.
Nice.
You should remember when we picked Skylar up at school. So we had a nice brand new Honda Pilot. We traded that in and got this old Chevy Trailblazer. We go to pick her up at school, and she doesn't want to get in the car. She was like,
That's fantastic.
"This is embarrassing." We're
Yeah,
like,
because she didn't see it yet. Yeah.
"Yeah,
That's funny.
But it was loaded with a bunch of bells and whistles
it was
Yeah.
for an 04."
for an 04.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's
so-
awesome.
Anyway, so then we made it through Dave Ramsey that time, and that's really what led us to Christ. Was
Yeah.
we went through it the second time, in that last session where he talks about giving and generosity and how it's all tied together, right? How, your treasure is where your heart is, etc., right? And we're leaving, and we had never had another conversation about religion since the "if you become a Christian, I'm going to divorce you" conversation, right? Never. And we're walking out to the car, and we look at each other at the exact same time. And I'm like thinking, I don't know if I'm going to say this, but I think I'm going to say it. And we looked at each other and we said, I think I want to find a Christian church. And it was like one of those moments of like, okay, that's a God thing. Right?
Yeah.
Yeah, because for me, going through the class, just listening to Dave speak and bringing stuff up to the Bible and everything, it just started pulling me back to when I was, in school or in high school, and I was going to a church there, and I was really deep in my belief and my faith in Christ, and so it was kind of pulling the strings back and just
Sure.
like, hey, come back.
Yeah. Yeah. And had you kind of walked away as a result of what you experienced in the military?
My walking away was mainly because after I got baptized, I was a freshman. I brought my mom and dad, who they never believed, and they believe, they're believers, and they got baptized, and my grandma and a bunch of my family. Mm-hmm. Well, then by the time my junior, senior year, I was forced to go to church, even if I didn't want to go. Mm. And it just got to a point where it's like, no, it's just, and then I was having doubts, and
sure.
Of course, devil's pulling you here, pulling you there. So,
yep.
But that's, I think, most of it there was just the pressure of them forcing me to do something.
Sure.
So,
yeah. But when y'all went through the second time, some of those things started kind of tugging on you a little bit.
Yeah. I had a really good youth minister, for like junior high and high school. He was really good. So I just started thinking back about stuff, he said back then and everything. So that's what just started pulling at my heart.
Sure. And then y'all find your way to Northpoint?
Yes, because we are planners. We had a list of about 5 churches that we were going to go to check them out. And we were still not, we were curious, and we wanted to, when we felt that tug, right? But we were still, maybe not him so much, but me definitely, I still wasn't 100% sure I wasn't going to spontaneously combust when I walked into the building.
Yeah.
So we were still super nervous. But we came to Northpoint and heard Buck speak, right? And it was kind of, just Buck, who Buck is, right? When you see him walk up on stage, you're like, okay, this isn't what I expected.
He's not
you know what I mean?
He's not in a suit.
Right, yeah. So we never made it to any of the churches on our list.
Yeah.
Because we were like, we want to know what that Buck's going to say now.
We made it on the first one because that's where they had the FPU.
Yes. Yeah, we tried that first, and then that wasn't for us, and so we came
but then
here.
I knew I wasn't going to stay there because of my experience that I had in the past with that denomination.
Gotcha. Okay. Gotcha. So then, coming to Northpoint, y'all experienced a whole lot of things. You got baptized here. I remember doing your baptism stories and how fun that was, and just multiple, I think, community groups now, to the point to where now, y'all have this financial freedom and you lead Money Matters. That's quite a journey, quite a 180-degree turn in terms of just foundations of life, kind of thing. One of the things I loved that you said in the video, and I kind of had to cut because of the time. Again, that's why editing videos is so frustrating sometimes, because I'm like, oh, that's so good, and I gotta have it in a certain time window. But you talked about how fun it is to help others, and that's a lot of what this series is about, is that generosity, actually being generous with your time, not just your money, but your time and your resources as well, that it benefits you in a way. It's paradoxical, right? So it's Jesus's whole, if you're not first, I'm sorry, I'm getting Ricky Bobby and Jesus mixed up right here. I always think if you ain't first, you're last when I start thinking about that. But he says, if you want to be great, you need to be last. If you want to be, so it's paradoxical. It doesn't make sense. But I want you to maybe talk a little bit more about that, and even maybe some of y'all's experiences where you have gone and been generous. Maybe you were hesitant, and then all of a sudden you were like, oh man, that was amazing. Look what we got to do.
We have, I don't know, I think when you all approached us about talking on generosity, we were both sort of it's not like we have tens of thousands of dollars that we're giving away for fun, right? Although it would be so fun to be able to do that, but we're not at that point. But I think it is so rewarding when you let God into your finances and you let him into your life and you say, God, put someone in front of me that needs something, right? And he will. and then you can step into that place and just make that happen.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So, you know, the single mom who's, you know, doesn't have enough money coming in to do Christmas for their kids, or people who can't pay for childcare, for community group, or, you know, I don't know, like just go down the line at Walmart at holiday time and just hand out $100 bills. You know, just like, we don't do like big things. We just do things that are sort of like.
Wait, have y'all done that before?
Not yet, but
Not
we're
yet,
going to.
not yet.
Is that like a fun plan that y'all have?
Yes.
That's cool.
Yeah.
We
Tell me
just-
when. I'm going to get in the line. Just kidding. I would do that.
Most of it's been like paying for someone's meals, you know, family's meal, or a lot of times I'll, you know, if I see a veteran, I'll, you know, pay for his meal. If I see, you know, a couple officers in uniform, we'll pay for their meals, but we'll keep it anonymous.
Sure.
You know?
Sure.
Yep. Military, police, first responders, if we see them in uniform.
Yeah.
So eat out in uniform.
Eat out in uniform. What if I'm in the line at Walmart in a uniform, like a costume? Nah, that's a bad idea. I wouldn't do that. Maybe take that out of the podcast. So yeah, but I love the way y'all talk about it. You talk about it like it's a date night. Like you talk about it like it's something fun that you get to do together. You know, and even you're planning the ways you can be generous in the future.
Because it is. It's so much fun. Like there'll be times that we'll just say in advance, like, we're gonna pay for somebody's meal tonight. And we'll sit there wherever we're eating out, because we still like to eat out way too much. And we'll just look around and be like, okay, whose meal do we want to cover? Right? And you know, and then it kind of becomes like a game, right? He's like, oh, I want to do this blah, blah, blah family over here. And I'm like, oh, but I want to do this family over here. Or like, you know, and, you know, sometimes we're like, we'll do both.
Do both.
Right?
Yeah.
Or sometimes, you know, whatever. I mean,
Yeah.
it's fun.
Yeah, that's really cool. I think that's so interesting because, you know, it's so abnormal. Like what y'all are talking about, like, you know, what you said about the way you approach, the way Dave Ramsey approaches finances, like even the way y'all approach generosity is so abnormal. You know, people just don't do that normally. And that's really cool. And it seems, you know, looking into y'all's eyes and talking about it, it really seems like it's something that just like lights up your world. Like getting to do that for people just seems like it's something that you so thoroughly, genuinely enjoy. And it's like I sitting here, and I hope people listening can experience this too, hearing Buck say, hey, this makes you happier, healthier, like it makes your life better. And then sitting across from y'all and hearing you talk about it, it's like it so genuinely does make your life better. That's really cool.
It does. It totally does. Well, because I think, like, I'm an accessory girl, in case you haven't figured that out already, right? I like
Same
accessories,
here. Same here,
shoes,
yeah.
right, purses, okay, whatever. And I'm not going to lie, I enjoy those things, right, when I treat myself. But the joy of that does not last, nor is it as, I want to say, like, it doesn't have the depth,
The life-giving.
yeah, as when I just give money away or when I help someone out in need, right? And I think that's the exciting part, is to just see who God puts, you know, in your life. So, you know, like for us, we want an RV when we retire, because we will retire.
Yeah, it's 61, and when she turns 60.
Yes.
Nice.
That's my birthday
We've
present.
already talked to our financial planner. We're set.
Nice.
So what we are talking about, we want an RV, like kind of full time.
Yeah,
And we
yeah.
keep like asking God, like, how can we make giving part of that? Like, what does that look, what's he want us to do?
Yeah.
Right? Do we like roll into every small town and hit the Walmart and hand out $100 bills at the checkout? I don't know, whatever he wants us to do.
Yeah.
But it's going to be a ton of fun.
Yeah. That's cool. Even that planning about retiring but still being generous is cool.
Yeah.
I want to, in our remaining time, go into a couple of different things, more faith-related, because we're talking about kind of, I mean, just the proof that scientifically generosity breeds happiness, like it creates happiness. But you talked a lot about, you know, relationship with Christ and money and how those things blend. Can you give a little bit more context as to what that means, what you mean by that? You know, you mentioned that in the video.
Yeah, and I don't know if they blend as much, but I mean, for me, what's changed in my life is I view everything's from God. So the money that I get, it's not mine. You know, it's all God's. It's all His. Everything's His. So I want to be able to make somebody else's life better. Do some surprise, and it's like, oh, someone paid for a meal. Whoa, that's awesome. I want to be able to do that instead of just spending money on myself, buying trinkets, or whatever, gadgets and stuff. I mean, I still like getting those, but the satisfaction doesn't last. You get something new, it's like, okay, it's gone. Yeah. And then the satisfaction of paying for someone's meal, it lasts longer. It's like, I bet you they're just on a cloud nine. It's like, wow, someone paid for a meal,
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just, also there's that in the Bible, I can't remember what chapter or verse or whatever yet, but about, being slave to the lender. I'm tired of being, slave to the almighty dollar, I want the dollar to work for me.
Yeah.
Not the other way around.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I want to tell it where to go.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, not only that, but I mean, y'all like investing in the mission and vision of Northpoint as well. Getting to not only go out and pay for meals, but then sit in the seats and hear baptism stories and all sorts of things like that too. I mean, what does that feel like for you as you get to see that life change?
I think I'm being honest, this probably isn't a very podcast worthy answer to that, but I've never thought about it that way necessarily. But when Skylar was going to boot camp, right, and we would pay for an extra kid to go, right?
Yeah.
Like we very much connect with those things that resonate with us in our life, right?
Sure.
So thinking about those times in our life when we couldn't afford to send our own kid to camp, let alone somebody else's, right? And how many times someone had come up alongside us and helped us, right?
Yeah.
And I think what God really wants is our heart, right?
Yeah.
And that's why he wants us to be generous, because that's what makes your heart grow for other people, right?
Yeah.
Because when you do hear other people's stories and how they've struggled, and their struggles might not be the same struggles as yours, but we all struggle, right? So
Yep.
I think, I don't know, we're very, odd in that when we became Christians, we were like, well, what does the Bible say about money? And so we read the scriptures, and, like we're in Buck's office, and we're like, okay, so we need to tithe at 10%. And he's like, sure.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right? And we're like, well, that's what it says. He's like, yeah. So we're very, unusual in that
Sure.
For us, it was just, we're kind of, I don't know. That comes off first. It's the first thing we do, and we don't even think about it, I guess is what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Like we don't even think about it.
Yeah, sure. Sitting in my seat on the other side of people, being a full-time staff member of Northpoint, it's always weird to talk about money with people who are giving to Northpoint, because it supports my family, and that's just genuinely what it is. It's like not weird or anything. It's just that's what happens. It pays the bills and staff, but at the same time, like there's an aspect of me that is like immensely grateful to everybody who gives to Northpoint for that reason, but also because in my seat I get to sit on the other side of people who are getting baptized and whose marriages are healed, and they're, even in my community group last night, sitting on the other side of people, and oh my goodness, just watching their faith journey go from point to point, I just go, golly, I wish people could just see how their generosity truly does like make an impact. We even had a family that, kind of helped bless us and upgrade our media equipment recently because it had all been a little bit old and needed some upgrade, because we use the equipment to do stuff like this. We use the equipment to capture stories, and those stories end up impacting other people, and people make decisions for Jesus because of that. And I already told that family, I was like, I want to like write y'all's initials on our cameras or something, because I don't want you to ever forget that you helped us do this so we can lead more people to Jesus. It's very tangible to me, and I always want people to be able to get a glimpse of how tangible that really is, So thank y'all, for giving in a real way.
It's our pleasure.
Yeah.
Truly.
So I want to wrap up with this. So for people who are afraid of making a change or being generous, what would you guys say today are some of the greatest kind of benefits of achieving financial health?
Well, to me, like when you have that financial health and then you have that freedom to be generous like that. Sometimes it's not easy. On like we've had some big gifts that we've done that we like, oh shoot, once we let that money go, if something happens. But then I think back, well, we got our emergency funds, so we're good.
Sure. Sure.
But there are sometimes on the big gifting where you kind of think, should I do this?
Yeah, it's that fear. It's that fear, right? Like, what if I let go of this resource, then what if I need it, right? And I mean, I don't know. I mean, for us, God is always faithful.
Yeah.
So when we feel Him nudge, and we're like, okay, and sometimes we are like, okay, like really, and it's like, yep. We're like, okay. And He takes care of us.
Yeah. Yeah.
We've never regretted it.
That's so powerful what you just said. I mean, you feel God, it's a fear. You feel God nudge. You feel the fear, and you go, okay. And you do it anyways, and then God is always faithful. Like that, that's like almost an equation that like, you can, the equation of generosity, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like that's really powerful stuff.
Yeah. Was it last summer? Was this just last summer? I don't know, the stimulus checks, right? So we got one of the stimulus checks, and we had not been impacted by COVID financially. And so, we had some financial things we did with the first one or the first couple. I don't remember what many there were now. But the last one, we were like, we've not been impacted. We don't need this money. So we're going to find someplace else that does need it. And so I think we ended up connecting with Shane, and I gave it to the care fund or something. Fund. I don't know.
Yeah.
We didn't. Yeah. I mean, we kept saying like, show us someone, and he wasn't. So we did that.
Yeah.
And then, within 4 weeks, maybe Scott lost his job. And there was that moment for me of, oh man. But then
like, hey,
I'm
Northpoint,
like,
is that still in the care fund?
Exactly, because I may need
some
that
care
next,
now.
right? Exactly. But then it was like, okay, but what am I worried about?
Yeah.
We don't have any payments. We got our mortgage, and we need to keep the lights on, and that's it. That's all we have.
No car payment, so no debt.
There was
no.
So it wasn't an issue. So it was just fear for the sake of fear. And I feel like God walked us through that to kind of drive home. Like when I ask you to do something and you obey, I got you. Mm-hmm. I may not have you the way you think you want me to have you, but I still got you. Yeah. And it's going to be just fine.
Yeah. Yeah. That's so good.
Which then led me to a better job.
A better job.
That's even great. Yeah, that's where that God is faithful piece comes in, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
If you're sitting across from a crowd of people and, they're, because you kind of are, it's just digital right now, and they're not there right now. But, if you were to say one thing to people as it relates to financial health, generosity, money, just one piece of advice, what would you say?
I would say it's not easy, but it's always worth it. And you don't have to do it all at once. Like it's okay if you get on the plan, make some progress, and then fall off the wagon a little bit, and then get back up and get back on the plan, right? Because
that's why it's called baby steps.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Baby steps.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But and just believe. I mean, God's got you. So just have that faith, and it'll get you through.
Good words of wisdom. Quiet words of wisdom. I like it. Hey, well, thank y'all so much for getting on video, on camera again, and doing this again. Much appreciated. I know that your story is a blessing to a lot of people. So thanks for being vulnerable and willing to share it. And I just hope that God continues to move in y'all's financial life through your generosity in big ways. And, he just continues to bless other people through your life and just the way you live. So we're going to wrap up there. We are going to be in part 3 of the Paradox of Generosity coming up this Sunday. So to all of our listeners and watchers, we will see you there either in person or online. Thanks, y'all.
Thanks.
Thank you.